Hello there, Caitlin. How are you?
I'm good. How are
Okay,
you?
I'm excellent. So I just finished your setup not too long ago. But
Yeah.
first, I want you to say what it is that you do because the majority of people that I work with are photographers. And so I do want them to know that I have other clients that are not photographers.
No, that's sincerely just a hobby of mine. um, I am a website designer and I specialize in one-to-one services for small or like micro businesses.
Yeah. And I'm just going to kick in there that you only do Squarespace.
Yes, I only do Squarespace primarily. I've done Show It too, but my clientele prefers Squarespace, so that's where I
Okay.
live most of the time.
So, what brought you to contact me to give you some help with your Dubsado?
I was drowning. I've had a Dubsado account since 2017, but my processes have evolved from going from like freelance print based design to freelance website design to full time website design. And so through all of that, like I just felt like old contracts needed to be cleaned up, forms needed to disappear. And then what the F was my process now? And what did that look like? Since going full time, I had gotten all these other things, others pieces, and I didn't know how they connected to Dubsado. And that's when I started doing everything manually. And that's when I started drowning.
Aw. Let's actually talk about that because you are unique in that I still let you hire me, even though you didn't let me get rid of all of your other pieces of software. Let's talk about that, Caitlin. What are the different pieces of software that you use in your business to completely do your customer journey for your website clients?
I use QuickBooks for invoicing because that's what my bookkeeper suggested. And I actually like the way the payments come in better over there. So I don't have to like give her access to Dubsado and Stripe and QuickBooks and all these pieces. That was one of the things that was kind of like non-negotiable. And then Calendly, because I love Calendly for
I mean, because
scheduling.
Dubsado has a scheduler, but you were like, I don't want to switch to the Dubsado scheduler. And I was like, okay, what
Yeah.
else?
Yeah. So Calendly for scheduling and ClickUp for task management. And those are my big three that are not Dubsado pieces.
And we didn't eliminate any of those.
No.
No, what we did was we made them all talk to each other, which is fabulous.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you about the VIP day aspect because one of the things that I get from people is the question, oh, but Colie, I've had Dubsado for years. And so do I really need like a full VIP day from you? And so now that you've had your system done and it was a full VIP day, one single strategy and implementation day, not my current 2 day process, but how do you feel about needing an entire day, even though you were already a Dubsado user?
Oh, definitely worth it. Yeah. It needed the attention, even though like on the surface, logging into my Dubsado account, it seemed clean. Or
I mean,
like, I
your
mean,
emails were well organized, Caitlin. I will admit that.
yeah, I mean, there wasn't like tons of stuff because I'd already done a lot of like spring cleaning in the account, but what was left still needed tons of work, the canned emails and all of the things. So yeah, it was it was definitely needed and exactly what I wanted, but I didn't know it yet.
Yeah, I'm here for that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, how did it feel to get your system done in an entire day? Because you didn't even have like the time in between that I have now when someone books a 2 day, like 1 day of strategy and 1 day of implementation. You had the whole thing done in 1 day. So how did it feel at the end of the day when I was done and I delivered your offboarding video to you explaining how the new system worked?
Um Amaze balls. As soon as I saw you starting to go through like check by check with all the different groups of workflows, because things are disconnected, we have like one for the actual inquiry and one for the booking paperwork and one for the actual onboarding of the client once they've booked the thing and then one for support. So when I started seeing it grouped like that, I was like, that's doable. I can do that. It tells me what to do. I can add little checklists for myself in between so that things are still kind of broken up into the proper stages. And I'm comfortable that I will not forget anything. And that was the most important piece right there.
That's super awesome. And I just want to say, you think that I did that special for you, but the truth is, for most people, I break it down into the inquiry and then the booking and then the onboarding. And
Yeah.
then most of my photographer clients don't have a support, but they do have like a delivery and follow up.
Hmm.
And so that wasn't specific for you, but the one thing that I was able to do for you by breaking that up was, as you said, I added in the to dos. And
Hmm.
then, like, I stepped away, and when I looked back in your account, like 2 days later, your to-dos were on crack. I was like, "Where did we add all this stuff?" It's like, I gave you, like, I wanna say, like, 4 to 5 tasks on each of your to-dos, and when I went in there, it was like a whole list, and I was like, "Oh my god, but that also looks so good." Yeah.
Yeah. I really wanted to make sure I remembered every piece, at least until I get into the routine, and then I can kind of ignore them. I'll probably keep them in place because the goal is still to get an assistant and she will need that at some point too. So yeah, definitely helps with all the pieces.
No, it's funny because I actually just said that on Instagram in the last day. I said, you might think that you need a VA, but before you get a VA, you really need a CRM to
Hmm.
streamline and organize your business. Because then, if the organization and the automation doesn't get you enough, when
Yeah.
you hire your virtual assistant, you will just hand them over a system that you already know works. And they can basically run it for you instead of you trying to piece together what your systems are as you're trying to onboard this virtual assistant. That's why a lot of people never actually hire a virtual assistant, because
Yeah.
it's so complicated to get the things out of your head
Yes.
onto paper, onto SOPs, on standard operating practice.
Yes.
In case someone listening doesn't know what that is, but
Yeah.
it's really hard to get your systems down in a way that someone else can come behind you and follow. And so that is one of the really good things about, getting your Dubsado done and
Mhm.
organizing yourself so that if you need to pass it off to someone else, you can. Yeah.
Yeah, that was exactly the place that I was in because my little sister and I work really well together, and she has the space, or she will have soon the space to come on and be an assistant for me to do stuff. And so when I've talked to her about it, she's like, okay, so what do you need me to do? And that's when I realized
You're like,
all of this is in
I
my
don't
head.
know.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I have no idea, but I know I need help. And so I need to start like getting it out on paper, so to speak.
Nice. Let's
Yeah.
talk about what you did to those forms.
Yeah.
So it's funny because, like, the welcome guide. So what did we create for you? A welcome guide and a portal guide for them to get into ClickUp. We created all of these different forms for you, which were questionnaires without questions.
Right.
And I've only recently been introducing these into my setups. But I have to say, I mean, you saw my Instagram videos. I damn near cried when I saw what you did to those forms. I was like, I thought that I gave you, like, a good outline. And I went in there and I was like, okay, so maybe I could hire Caitlin. I was like, because you just did stuff that I just wouldn't have thought about. So let's talk about infusing videos into your business. Were you using how to videos before?
Yes, but not as extensively as I am now. So I have like a centralized kind of tutorial library in Loom that I've been building.
Mhm.
And so this just encouraged me to keep do more with it. So I had that kind of already. And then when I was using Notion instead of ClickUp, I had to onboard them, but it was so simple that I had one video.
Okay, because
It
you've
was
got way
like
more than one now.
yeah, yeah. And it was like 10 to 20 minutes depending on the scope of their project, and I would walk them through how to do everything. And then they have like this really convenient video of their own that was like 3 minutes that teaches them where to comment and how to do that.
Mhm.
And so that was the 2 videos that they got, and then the offboarding ones later. Now I have 2 that walk you through the guest setup and then 4 to walk them through the portal. So we're starting with more, which I guess will to be determined on how that's received. But
Well, but I just want to say they are shorter, right?
yes, they're
Because the thing
more
is,
bite sized.
I didn't realize that your original one was 10 to 20 minutes. I mean, think about the brain capacity that people have right now. Like very few people would have an opportunity to sit down and watch a 10 to 20-minute video without getting interrupted. Like we just, and I say that as someone who binges Netflix. So this is really a ridiculous thing for me to say out loud. But like when it comes to consuming content related to my business, like I struggle to sit down and do it if it's more than like 2, 3, maybe 5 minutes at a time. So I am encouraged to hear that you took those longer videos and you made more of them and now they're bite-sized. Because the other
Good.
part, I actually feel bad when I give my clients offboarding videos, and you know this because I was recording the offboarding video and we would go through your whole setup and then I would give it to you and I started thinking about it. And I was like, gosh, but if they need to know like this one thing, they have to watch the entire hour in order to get to the part where we talked about that. So I had started, recording the walkthrough that you watch before our offboarding call. And that has worked really well for me. But as the client, how did that work for you?
I mean, it was okay for me because I was so fascinated with what you were doing on the screen. But I do understand that. So do have one 20-minute video in those four that I filmed. But I actually went through and commented at the different chapters. So they now have like a jump to link throughout the thing.
Someone is doing that soon. I can't remember which one of my programs, but they're introducing the timestamps. And I was like, oh gosh, now I'm going to go back into the like video library that I give people and I'm going to go timestamp it with specific things so that they know. But yeah,
Yeah.
I will say, guys, that Caitlin is the only person that's ever commented on their offboarding walkthrough. And I was in the car, Chloe was state testing, and like I kept on seeing all these notifications. Caitlin made a comment, Caitlin made a comment. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then I went through and just, addressed each of her comments and questions, which was awesome. But yeah, I was really happy that I started doing that. And the first person that I gave that walkthrough to before the call, they were like, oh gosh, I watched it 3 times and now I completely understand the system. And their offboarding call just went so differently. Like I was finding that when I was walking someone through for the first time, they were constantly interrupting me with questions, which is perfectly okay. I mean, that's the point of the call. But then if I was rewatching it, I was like, oh gosh, like there's so many interruptions from the beginning of the workflow to the end. I don't know that they would be able to rewatch it and like
Mhm.
pay attention to it. Like the interruptions would be problematic.
Yeah. For the focus level.
Yeah. So to talk about that support, because technically you're still in your support period. What
It
did you think about the 30 days of support?
really, really helpful. Yeah. I knew once that last support question, I realized after the fact that I did like 8 in 1, but whatever. I had started filming that Loom video with the intention of asking like 1 or 2 things, and then it became several things, but it was kind of like all interlocked within the whole system. And uh yeah, so that was really helpful to be able to go back and forth.
Any advice for someone else who's thinking that their
Do
website
it.
needs a little help? Because it's funny, Caitlin. I got someone the other day. I listed all the things that I did for my last VIP day, and another website designer, oddly enough, she
Yeah.
contacted me and she was like, I wouldn't have thought I got all that stuff. She goes, I've just really been thinking that it's not possible to do your Dubsado in a day. Like she was like, I was thinking there was no way I get more than like 1 to 2 workflows and a couple forms. And the one that I had shared on Instagram was like 35 canned emails, 12 workflows, 12 questionnaires. Granted, her setup was a monster, but I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't even know where to go with that question other than because you're just like, do it. Because I bet it's a lot of the people that I get inquiries from. You would think that it would be people coming into Dubsado new, or that it's people who are switching from like something awful like 17 hats or
Oh, yeah.
but
Been there.
yeah, it turns out that it's like, oh, so what did you have before you had Dubsado? I don't think I ever asked you this.
I started with 17 hats in 2016. I think I lasted like 2 months. No, this is
Like you were
I switched to Bonsai, which I still like. HelloBonsai.com. It was actually started by no, no, no. I found it through the podcast Clients from Hell. Have you ever been to that?
No,
Real,
but that
really,
sounds like a podcast that I need.
re- really funny. It's all like anonymous freelance horror story kind of situations. And
I'm gonna go
yeah.
subscribe to that.
Yeah, it used to be a place I would go all the time on my lunch break during my 9 to 5. Anyway, I found it through that, and they were good, but at that time, they were so new that they didn't have, like, split payments, and I so there were things that I needed, and that's when I found Dubsado, and I've been with them ever since.
Well, overall, I'm assuming I know how you would rate your experience, but how would you rate your experience both with me and with your new Dubsado setup?
Um, how many stars do I get?
Technically, most people do like 5 stars, right? So,
Okay, definitely 10.
and actually, you and I were chatting about this before, I officially started recording this for this purpose. But tell me about your discovery call today. It's your first one since you got
Yeah.
your new system. How did it go?
Yep, she was on the wait list. So I released the wait list with the new workflow and she booked within the hour of releasing it. And she just booked a $6,000 project with me for. So I'm very excited. Yeah.
Super excited. I need you to keep me updated about what she thinks about your new onboarding system
Yeah.
and then how it is like the progression from Dubsado to QuickBooks to pay, and then also Dubsado to ClickUp to actually do her tasks. Because not only was the point to get you comfortable, we should check in with your clients to make sure that
Yeah.
they think that that transition in between your programs that you're still using is streamless as well.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
All right, Miss Caitlin, any final thoughts?
Do it. Do it yesterday. Do it the day before yesterday.
I love you, Caitlin. I love you.